All right, y'all. Shalom, shalom. Welcome to the Forefront Radio. Welcome to the Forefront Radio. Hope everybody's doing all right. I'm your host, I Feel Levi. I decided to take a moment to just sit outside and enjoy nature. So I hope y'all, don't mind the wind that's going to be in the background of our discussion. I kind of got my headphones in, so hopefully the audio was clear for you to hear me. I wanted to take a moment to talk about the so-called Indians, right? The native indigenous populations and the history known as Thanksgiving. While most people at the end of this month are going to be, eating a lot of different meals and enjoying family time, I think we should take into consideration the actual history of Thanksgiving and the actual people that were impacted. For example, there's a story of a person named Squanto. This individual named Squanto, in class in history school, in the educational system of the West, they will tell you that Squanto was this friendly person that was utilized by Western immigrants known as Pilgrims that came to the America, and he was friendly, and they kind of used him as an ambassador and an interpreter and things of that nature. But y'all, when you look up the actual history of Squanto and what happened to him, why is it that we're just finding out? Like, I just found this out just researching this, that Squanto was actually enslaved, an enslaved person. Yes, that's right. Native indigenous populations, so-called Indians, were enslaved in the Americas. Shalom to you. Hope you're doing well. So, you know why this is interesting information, that Squanto was actually enslaved? Because when you research it, you find out that it wasn't just him, but it was y'all listen to this, over 5.6 million individuals, shalom to you, hope you're doing well, that were enslaved, that were native indigenous from 1492 all the way to the 1860s, y'all. You understand? So that combines both America and Africa of people that were in captivity. So now they have this holiday called Thanksgiving, right? And during this holiday, people watch football games, people, eat various meals, they have their family traditions that they participate in. But what we fail to consider in our festivities, right, is the tremendous amount of devastation that happened to the so-called Aboriginal, the so-called Indian, the so-called African or African Americans, or whatever title that they want to call them, right? I was having a conversation with my wife earlier today, right? And I asked her, here in Southeast Africa, when you think of the term Indian, what comes to mind? And she said, those people that are Hindu that live over there in India, that was what comes to mind when I say, what do you think of when it comes to the term Indian? Then I said, okay, when you look at the word American Indian, what first resonates in your mind? She said, okay, like brownish, tan people that live in America, right? And then I asked her, when you think of West Indian, what comes to mind? So then she said, it wasn't until I came into the truth of knowing who we are, that the people that we call West Indian are actually our people too, that live in the Caribbean islands, and they're the same people like the native indigenous. So now this is going into centuries of captivity and people being transported from not only the east side of Africa that they called Ethiopia, but also the west side of Africa that they called Ethiopia. Because guess what? The Atlantic Ocean used to be called the Ethiopic Ocean. A lot of people don't know that, you know? So I said, babe, do you not see that this is interesting? That there's three different categorizations of people that are called Indian. One, a group from Hindustan, another a group that's in the continental of the United States, and then another that's in the Caribbean islands and the Greater and Lesser Antilles that they call West Indians. So I said, don't you find that odd that like they have various demographic and various physiognomy, and they look different, but in reality, many of them have the same traits, the same cultural types, and we all get confused by the term, Indian. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, you got this holiday called Thanksgiving coming up, and you have classifications of different people, and they're all like, okay, the reason why I say many of them have similarities to culture and characteristics is because when you read the book called the Book of Esther, right? This was during the Persian Empire. There was a king by the name of King Ahasuerus, right? When you read like the first chapter in the book of Esther, it says that the reign of this kingdom, the territories of this kingdom, was from India all the way to Ethiopia. He had like over 170 plus provinces, right? So then I thought to myself, during the Persian Empire, this was when the Israelites were scattered, not only during the Babylonian Sumerian captivity, but also in parts of Persia. So now you have melanated people, right, that are in Hindustan and all the other stand countries. Don't get me started on all the stands. There's so many damn stands all over the place. Pakistan, Afghanistan, Hindustan, and then some of their names changed over time, and then all the way into Ethiopia, which is modern day Africa, right? Because on the old maps, all the way from Libya all the way down on the old maps, you could look it up. Yale University, the old maps depicted Africa as just the title Ethiopia. So then these same descendants that they called Indians came to the Americas. So now we're like triple confused now. Because you got the Hindustan Indian, you got the American Indian, then you got the West Indian, which is people from the Caribbean islands. So then I said, you know what? This has to be something very remarkable because when I went to school, I never heard anything about the so-called Indians, Native Indigenous in the Americas going into captivity. I never heard anything about it. And I'm like, all of this information is in the history books, but they like skipped that chapter. They skipped that whole entire section. And now we have a group of people that are called, right, Native Indigenous, Aboriginal, Hispanic, Latino, and various other names. But guess what? What's the difference between, think about this for a moment. What's the difference between somebody that was called Jamaican, that's from the West Indies, right? West Indian, right? Then, right, because that was a British place first, right? What's the difference between that person and then somebody that lived in, let's say, Virginia during the 13 colonies, right? And then they were brought to Jamaica. They were brought to Jamaica, right? Right? So let's say you got a cousin in Virginia and then you got another relative in Jamaica. So this like dismantles the whole misnomer of immigration and should we have issues with immigration because everybody that's coming to the Americas been going back and forth for years and centuries through transportation, migration, sometimes forced at times. This also dismantles the people that talk about FBA, right? The whole conversation of foundational Black American versus Afro Caribbean versus Africa in itself. Because when you ask them a question, what's the difference then between a person that was born in Jamaica and another person that was living in Virginia and taken to Jamaica, and then they grew up there for centuries? Now their descendants are going around saying that they're Jamaicans. So that whole conversation of foundational Black American gets thrown in the bathwater. You know how they say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. It destroys that logic. And what I want to see, especially in the diaspora, I want to see unity. I want to see a collectiveness. I want us to see more of a decisive thought process where we don't divide ourselves and say, I'm this particular nationality because where I was born, but actually relate to each other to say, okay, what are the similarities that we have? Like, for example, right? If I talk to my brother that's Mexican, what's the type of food that he likes to eat? You got corn, you got rice, you got beans, you got chicken. Okay. If I go to let's say the island of Haiti, right? And I ask a brother that's in Haiti, what kind of food you like? What will he say? He's gonna say corn, he's gonna say rice, he's gonna say beans, he's gonna say chicken. So then if I travel across the water and I say, let's go to Florida and let's see some of the, because I used to live in Miami, and in Miami is a whole bunch of different people, different ethnic groups, a lot of different culture there, especially from the Caribbean islands. And let's say I meet somebody that's from Trinidad and Tobago while I'm in Miami, right, on a trip. And I ask them, hey, what kind of food do you like? What kind of food is really popular? He's going to tell me corn, rice, beans, and chicken. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. I travel to Haiti, it's the same food. I travel to Jamaica, it's the same food. I travel to Miami, it's the same. What's the difference? Then I examine the music, right? And I start listening to the different music styles, right? I listen to compa music, I listen to reggae music, I listen to reggaeton, bachata, various styles that you see in the Caribbean islands. And then I examine some of the music in like West Africa and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait, what are some of the similarities that they have? You got trumpets being used, you have drums being used, right? You have trumpets, you have drums, you have various types of beats, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, this music, like I was listening to a song that was played in Malawi, and I said, wait a minute, this sounds like something from Zimbabwe. This sounds like something from Haiti. This sounds like something from Jamaica. So, are there really differences among us? Or have we been taught, or rather programmed, to think that there are differences among us? I think, and I've come to the conclusion based on my research, that we're all the same people, but we've been scattered. We've been scattered and given different misnomers. And now, when you examine world history, that seems to be the case. That seems to be the case. So, bro, that's facts. The people in Jamaica are just like the people in Georgia. Yeah, exactly. Prime example, right? I'm glad that you mentioned that. I just watched this video on TikTok, right? And in the video that I saw on TikTok, there was a man that was interviewing people that were coming from West Africa, right? And I initially thought that this was a classroom of just so-called African Americans, right? So I'm looking at the class, and all of the students are coming up to the cameraman, and he's asking, hey, what's your American name? And one person says, Brenda, right? Then he says, what's your African name? And the girl gives some African name that I can't even pronounce, to be honest. I couldn't even try it. I'll just say Precious, because you got a lot of people from Africa that they name Precious, right? So she said Precious. And little by little, more and more people were coming up, right? Shalom, hope you're doing well. More and more people were coming up. And I'm looking at them like, all right, that's an African American. That's an African American. All of them were saying, I'm from Ghana, I'm from Nigeria, I'm from Senegal, I'm from Haiti, I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all, these jokers all look the same. They all look the same. How are they different? How are they different? I'm like, nah, these are all the same people, scattered, just like the Bible says. Which brings me to this main point. When you read the book of James chapter 1, verse 1, right? It says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So now, the Bible was never about religion. When you write a letter, you have a sender and you have a recipient, right? So the letter was written by whom? The letter was written by James, a direct disciple of the Messiah, right? And then James writes the recipient of the letters, the one that's supposed to receive the letter, is the 12 tribes scattered abroad, meaning scattered away from Jerusalem, right? Away from Jerusalem. So this is showing us that just through world history, we have a remarkable example of a diaspora group, right, that has been given so many misnomers that there's confusion of faces. People don't know who they are now. They just call them like people of color. Like, and I find it very vague that you call somebody people of color, right? Or Indian or Negro or black or Latino. We are all the same, y'all. We are all one people. If you, of course, if you fit the generational blessings and the generational curses of Deuteronomy 28, right? So James is writing to a specific people that have experienced a diaspora, a scattering, a forced migration. Right, Shem's kids. Yes, exactly. Shem's kids, right? No, 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 not just Shem's kids. Let me say Jacob's kids. Let me say Jacob's kids, because you had some Shemites that were actually mean, like the Assyrians. The Assyrians, they were Shem's kids, right? They was evil as hell. Moab. Moab was Lot's children. Moab and Ammon, those were children that were produced from incestuous relationships. They crazy as hell, right? So I don't want to say Shem's kids. Matter of fact, Esau is Shem's kids too. Amalek, no bueno, Amalek. Those Amalekites, they were really bad. All right, so going back to, let's kind of rewind a little bit back to the discussion of Thanksgiving Day, right? I don't want to just set it on the table. While a lot of people are going to be partying, enjoying themselves, chefing it up, doing all of this stuff on the grill, because I know some of y'all got your day off, right? I got your day off for Veterans Day. Some of y'all are cooking on the grill right now while I speak. But what many fail to realize is that our ancestors, right? They were not thankful. They were not thankful for the egregious actions, let me put it like that Christopher Columbus and many other of his cohorts were doing. That, matter of fact, when you really dig really deep in this conversation, they thank God for our destruction. Wow. They really thanked God for our destruction. I really want you to think about that for a moment. Imagine imagine you're from, let's say, Armenia, right? You've been living in Armenia all your life. Then a group of explorers visits Armenia, right? And comes to Armenia. Uh, can I turn off your chat? You don't like the chat? I'm not sure why you want to turn off the chat for. What's the purpose behind turning off the chat? You're not able to see things? Oh, that's cute. That's cute. That's cute. I like that. So, you know, that was funny. Thank you for making me smile. I appreciate it. Um, so, a lot of times, right, you have situations that occur where people are shocked and amazed. People are shocked and amazed that situations transpire where we talk about these events and people are like, wait, did that really happen? People are shocked. They're like, did that really happen, that native indigenous people went into captivity? Because they feel comfortable saying that Africans went into slavery. They feel comfortable saying West Indians went into slavery in all nations. They feel comfortable saying, Moriscos went into slavery, right? But they don't feel comfortable saying that the Israelites were the ones that went into slavery. They don't feel comfortable saying that. The reason why is because once you realize that these people groups that were classified as Indian, right? West Indian, American Indian, Hindustan Indian, and all of that stuff, that they were the descendants of captivity, whether in the Indian Ocean trade or the Ethiopic Ocean or Atlantic Ocean trade, right? Once you understand that they are the Israelites, then you'll say, wait a minute, these are all God's chosen people that we're thankful for that Christopher Columbus deleted. Things that make you go, hmm. So if Christopher Columbus and the Spanish, who also came with Dominican friars, as well as who? Catholic bishops and, religious people, that tells us that they brought forth both missionaries and militaries. And there's no way that they could have read this Bible and not know, wait, these people have similar practices to what we're reading about in the Bible. They're celebrating new moon festivals, like the Bible says. They're celebrating Passover, like the Bible says. Like literally on the ground in the Americas, people celebrating Afro-Hebraic practices. And the same thing in the continent. The same thing in the continent of Africa. You have people celebrating literally circumcision and Passover, and now they're like, we're just going to call you a misnomer. No, no, no. You can't call them all Indians, right? Right. They're called holy days. Exactly. So what we call holidays in America, right? According to the Bible, the biblical based holidays are really like Passover, Feast of Dedication. So why is it that we don't celebrate the fall festivals like the Feast of Tabernacles, Memorial of the Trumpets, but we recognize Veterans Day. We recognize Thanksgiving Day, but they're not in the Bible. I thought America was a Christian nation. I thought America was I thought it was a Bible believing country, right? I mean, that's what a lot of, Christians say, you know. So I'm not here to stir the pot. Well, maybe I am here to stir the pot. Maybe I will stir the pot just a little, just a smidge, right? Maybe I will stir the pot just a little bit, if I may. So let's stir the pot. The Bible says that the lost tribes of Israel would be scattered into all nations. Let's stir the pot. Let's stir it. Let's stir it. Let's stir it. Let's stir it. So now, if we're reading out of articles and news stories that the people that they call Indian, right? West Indian, right? Aboriginal, Native African, right? If they were scattered into all nations and they fit the prophecies, right? Wouldn't that mean that they fit the biblical description of the lost tribes of Israel? Just something to consider. Just something to consider. Because when I examine history, I ask very easy questions. I say something like this: Polish people that converted to a religion called Judaism, did they go into captivity in all nations? Yes or no? Then I examine history. I look at the facts from early 300 AD all the way up until now, and I'm like, no, I don't see that happening to them. Then I say, okay, what about the Germanic people that call themselves Ashkenazi, right? Did they go into captivity in all nations, like the Bible says? And then I examine their history, and I'm like, no, they did not. Not at all. Then I say, okay, let's look at another group of people. Let's say Chinese people. Did Chinese people go into captivity in all nations? And I examine their history. They had little civil wars and fights amongst themselves, but overall, they didn't get taken to different places all over the planet as enslaved persons. So now these people that they call Black, Hispanic, Indian, Morisco, did they go into slavery in all nations? Just something to consider. I won't even give you the answer. I'll just ask you to think about it. Take a moment to just think, really just dig real deep. So if these people in America were celebrating biblical based holy days, and then they went into captivity in all nations, and now Western civilization, quote unquote, decided to rename them, reclassify them, that would mean that Western civilization is responsible for scattering the lost tribes of Israel. And I mean, this goes way back, folks. I'm talking from Rome, Portugal, Spain, France, Britain, America. It goes way back, y'all. It even goes back to like Babylon, Persia, Greece. You ever heard the term history repeats itself, right? Consistently, century after century, you had forced migrations, not of everybody, but a particular group that's documented in the Bible as the lost tribes of Israel. Right, right, right. Just something to consider. So now we call them now Indians. We call them now West Indians. We call them now Aboriginal. We call them now terms like Negro, Black. And these are all misnomers to hide who they really are, to hide where they actually came from. Because when you ask them, okay, we call you African American, right? Are you from East Africa and South America? Are you from Egypt? Because the people that's in Egypt right now, most of them are Arabs, right? Right? And they classify the Arabs as white, right? Are you from Egypt, which is in North Africa, and are you from Central America? Let me dig real deep for y'all. If Elon Musk flew from South Africa, came to the Americas, and changed to United States citizenship, wouldn't Elon Musk be an African American? Wouldn't Elon Musk be an African American? I think so. I think so. So so that there's a misnomer going around. There's a misdirection. There's a persuasion being put to classify individuals as certain things. You see. What group of people's names are always reclassified according to the Bible? It's the lost tribes of Israel. You understand? You understand? So there's a verse that says that you're going to have sons and daughters, but you're not going to enjoy them because, can you please turn off your camera? Do you want to see the background of what I have going on? Sure. This is the background that I have right here. Christopher Columbus and the destruction of the New World. That's the background. All right. That's our topic for today. Daughter of Zion. Okay. Shout out to you, Daughter of Zion. Most of us are original Americans of America. I would agree with that statement to a certain extent. Here's why I say to a certain extent. America was named by whom? Who was the whole entire America's named by? Thank you for contributing to the live goal. Appreciate you. Thank you for the necklace. Who was America named after? Who was America named after? Rome and the Catholic Church. I like that answer. Yeah, because you had Rome, Maryland. Yeah, okay. I hear you. We're not talking about DC though. We're talking about the continents in itself. The continents in itself. Thank you for contributing. Appreciate you. So wasn't America named after Amerigos Vespucci? Right? Who was who? Who was Amerigos Vespucci? Who was America's Vespucci? Wasn't America's Vespucci a Italian navigator? Vespucci? Yeah, he was an Italian navigator. So can a West Indian person say that they descend from a Italian navigator? Can a person from oh, what was the name before? Now that's an excellent question. What was the name before? When you examine hidden writings of the Bible that they tried to take out, these secret writings, I'm gonna tell you a secret. Okay? There's a book known as the Apocrypha. If you haven't read it, you need to read it immediately. The ancient name is found in the book called Second Esdras, chapter 13. Okay, I'm giving you the chapter so you can look it up, And it was called Arsareth. Arsareth. Look it up. Look it up. Yes, yes. It was called during biblical times now. It was not called Turtle Island. It was not called Tamari. It was called Arsareth. Arsareth. Look it up. Look it up. It's there. It's in hidden writings that they tried to take out of the Bible, y'all. They tried to take it out of the Bible because they did not want you to know that many of the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel came to the Americas during the BC time. Here's a couple of books you can read that are really insightful. From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. That's one book I would recommend. Another book I would recommend is called Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. It's written by Tudor Parfit. I think it's either through Yale University or Harvard University, but you should be able to get it on Amazon, right? Another book I would recommend is, well, the Bible, of course, because that's the first source that you want to read, right? But then when you touch on these various other, here's a good one. Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by, I think it's Ronald Sanders. Please repeat. Yes. The book is called, the first one I said was From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. Okay. From Babylon to Timbuktu. The other one is Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. Okay. That's by Tudor Parfit. And the third one, it just escaped my mind. What was the third one I just said? I just said it. This is why it's important to eat walnuts and fish. Get your omega-3 so your brain doesn't have a brain fart. I literally just forgot it. Wow. What was the third book I mentioned? I can't remember right now. Okay. Well, in any case, hopefully it'll come back to me. But very important to read these sources, and it's good to always expand your research, right? So it wasn't until I researched on the native indigenous populations being enslaved by Christopher Columbus. Oh, here's the third one. The Destruction of the Indies by Bartolomé de las Casas. The Destruction of the Indies. Oh, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. That's the third one. The fourth one would be that one. Research King Clifford Jefferson. Yeah, sure. I'll look into that. I've read the book of Joshua. It's a pretty interesting read. I've read the book of Jubilees. I think Jubilees is more biblically sound to the King James. When I read the book of Joshua, it does give a lot of good information. Like, for example, right, in the book of Joshua, chapter 90, it talks about the commingling of the children of Esau and the children of Kittim, which parallels to a book called Modern Judaism that talks about the Edomites taking over Rome and Western civilization and having the dominion over all Europe. So the book of Joshua kind of briefly touches on that when you read Joshua chapter 90, I think it is, right? But as far as like some of the other stuff that's in it, like Simeon and Levi getting into a fight with the sons of Esau, and one let out a shriek that was so loud that that one of the guys like fell off the tower while they were fighting. I don't know, like somebody screaming so loud, it kind of gave me like X-Men Banshee kind of vibe. So I was like, I don't know, you know what I mean? So yeah, the Ethiopian Bible, that's a good one to read as well. Hopefully you can find a good translation that'll give you an English translation to it if you primarily speak English, because I damn sure don't speak Gaz nor Amharic. So yeah. But yeah, so I was on this CBC article earlier today, and Judah screamed so loud, women miscarried. Have you ever, man, yeah, yeah, that was another part. So I was reading this article earlier today, right? And in this article, y'all, it was talking about how the native indigenous populations, right? Specifically talking about Squanto, right? How Squanto was first enslaved by the British that came over here as quote unquote pilgrims, right? And then Squanto, when he came back, because a lot of him and his people were sold over to Britain, uh, how true are the information in these books is just a problem. So that's the thing. You want to research for yourself and always cross-reference. So whenever you get information that's new, always cross-reference it and look it up. Like many of those books that I mentioned, they have sources. They have sources and a whole entire bibliography of where they get the information from. So that's more reliable to me than listening to Discovery Channel and National Geographic, because they're full of lies. National Geographic literally said that aliens built the pyramids in ancient Egypt. Like you really can't take that seriously. You see what I'm saying? Anything to discredit anything dealing with melanated people and creation, they just threw it out the bus and said, "Oh no, we're gonna say that aliens." Like that's, come on, you know. So yeah, a lot of our information that we accept today is, for lack of a better term, BS. you know. So yeah, got to read Psalms 83. That's a good one as well. So going back to this article. So I'm reading this article this morning for research for this discussion that I'm having today, and I'm reading about how Squanto and many of his relatives were taken into captivity, right? Slavery. So I find it really interesting that CBC News put this on their website, but you have melanated people today that will say, oh, slavery never happened to the native indigenous populations. They're not the same like Judah, because they'll argue and say, oh, I can accept that so-called Negroes are Israelites, but I'm not going to accept that native indigenous and Hispanics are. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Slavery didn't start in 1619 in the Americas. That captivity started with Spain and Portugal first, which was more so in the 1400s. That's why you have a whole bunch of black and brown people that speak Spanish in the Americas to this day, right? So millions, literally like 5.6 million people were taken from America in the 1400s and they were brought over to Europe. So imagine how many of their descendants today, right, are calling themselves titles of European names from back in the 1400s. And they've been living in Europe for centuries thinking, oh, I could be Germanic, or I can be, Ukrainian or Russian, and these are melanated people, y'all. I'm not talking about just these folks. I'm talking about the people that were forced to go over there, right? And many of them intermingled with the people that's there in Europe, right? So they'll say, okay, these West Indian folks, right, that came from Jamaica was brought over to Britain, right? And then they'll say, well, you guys are not Indian, you guys are African American or Afro Britain, right? Because we always talk about the trade coming into America, but a lot of times we don't discuss the people that went out, right? I want to have a conversation with a college professor about the people that went out of America. Not just the people, because they always say, oh, they took a bunch of Africans and brought them in and blah, 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 blah. But what about the people that Christopher Columbus, Hernan Cortez, Ponce de Leon, George Washington, the Pilgrims? Because remember, by the time Squanto came back in, right, literally, when Squanto came back in, they alleged that millions of his people passed away through epidemic. But when you read Bartolomé de las Casas' book, The Destruction of the Indies, shalom to you, hope you're doing well. When you read de las Casas' book, The Destruction of the Indies, no, it doesn't say that they were ravaged by disease and plague. It says that the Spaniards were doing, there was machetes everywhere, y'all. It was a really bad side of history that a lot of people don't like to discuss, but it's important, especially coming into the discussion of, Thanksgiving Day and what do they have to be thankful for? You know, they thank God for our destruction, you know? So this is how we know other tribes from the curses. Correct. Correct. Exactly the answer I'm looking for, the statement I'm looking for. So when you read about the generational curses that would happen to the Israelites, right? One of them would be what? Slavery. Another one would be mass incarceration. Another one would be their sons and daughters given into another people. Another one would be another one. Oh, I got flies all over the place. Another one would be given different titles that are not theirs, right? Right. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly and kind of just drop a nugget into your mind to take a moment to consider these things, right? Especially when we get into the conversations about, you know, Thanksgiving Day and Veterans Day and people taking their time off to kind of celebrate these Western based holidays. Think about the people that have been long gone in the past and, have a discussion. Shalom to you. Hope you're doing well. Have a discussion about these things, right? Talk about and investigate the people that were taken out of the Americas and brought across to Africa or the Caribbean island or brought across to Europe or to Australia or South Africa, right? And I'm talking like 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, right? We gotta investigate those things because remember, it was a triangular trade system, right? It wasn't just people being brought into Americas; it was also our people being brought out, right? And you know why I love my brother and respect his hard works and research. All praise to the Most High. I try to make the information palatable because if I go into like the books and read them verbatim, a lot of people are gonna fall asleep on me. So I try to make the information palatable for people to understand it without saying, forefront, it's too much history. I'm falling asleep. I can't take it no more. You know what I'm saying? Because I know a lot of y'all in history class, y'all wasn't paying attention to a damn thing. Am I lying? Am I lying? some of y'all don't like history at all. But what I try to do is balance history with the Bible so that way it can make sense, y'all. So not me, I will keep right on up. All phrases. I like that. I like that. Check out the Maroon Wars. That'll be another great conversation because right now I know I was sleeping. you know, currently I'm researching the American Indian Wars first, and I'll get into the Maroon Wars as well. But I think the Maroon Wars were more like in the West Indies, like Jamaica and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken. And then not only that, but the wars with the Moors itself that was in like Spain and Britain and before they got exiled out of those areas, right? Really great conversations too. Um, so for the rest of the month of November, what we're going to do on the Forefront Radio is we're going to have a lot more discussions and give more history. Today was just kind of like a preview of what I want to discuss, right? And on subsequent discussions here on TikTok and on YouTube, we're going to get into more in-depth research and in-depth information. So that way, you're going to say, hey, Forefront, can you tell me the source that you got it from? And I say, okay, here's the source, here's the article, here's the page, here's the date, right? And then on another opportunity, I'll say, okay, here's the book where I got this information from. So that way you can go back and fact check it and say, oh, wow, he's actually bringing information out that's relevant. So we're going to switch also to a subscriber based model. For those that are subscribers, you'll have access to our Discord channel as well as do I have a podcast? Oh, do I? Well, 11,000 on this channel, 12,000 on YouTube. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio. You never heard of the Forefront Radio? Let me tell you about it. So the Forefront Radio is a diaspora podcast. We talk about Black history, we talk about Hispanic history, Native Indigenous history, and we also speak from a biblical based worldview, right? So, but it's not religious. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think, oh, church, oh, no, God, he's going to be. None of the hooping and hollering and rolling on the floor type of stuff. It's more so paralleling history with biblical based predictions and prophecy. That's what we talk about, right? And the Forefront Radio is a very engaging community that we have, especially on our Discord channel. And, we invite you to join on, all our people that follow and subscribe whenever we have episodes. Y'all know how I get down. For the people that are consistent on here, y'all know how we talk about it. Yep, we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. We talk about a lot of different things, right? So make sure you follow this account if you haven't. We appreciate everyone that joined on. For now, we're going to end the live. I'm going to charge my phone for a little bit, and then later on today we'll come back online and we'll thank you for the subscription, much appreciated. Thank you for all of you that subscribe. So later on we'll have a subscriber only live, and then we'll get into more in-depth discussions. So for those that are consistent, let me see if I can add y'all as moderators, so that way when we do have a subscriber only live, you can join on if you're not able to do the subscriptions. Let's see, who has been consistent? Let me look at on if you're not able to do the subscriptions. Let's see, who has been consistent? Let me look at this list here. I think this list will only give me the top 10. This will only give me the top viewers here. So join the team as well if you care to do so. I'll follow you back. Some of the top viewers that's on here, I'll follow you back. And just let me know if y'all have any questions. If there's any discussion, first timer, well, welcome to the Forefront Radio. Pleasure to have you here. I'll follow you as well. All right, so if you're interested in the content, feel free to follow us. And I just got on. I'm on in now. All praises to the Most High. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate you. So when we have the subscriber only live, we'll get more in depth, and I'll give y'all the sources. That way y'all got it down pack. All right, and we appreciate y'all that join on all the time, and I'll just say peace to the 12. May the Most High watch over you all. All right, shalom. We'll be back later on today though.